The federal government announced its latest effort today to jumpstart the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion. Instead of appealing a court ruling that stopped the project dead in its tracks, the feds will try to fix what the court said they failed to do: consult with affected Indigenous communities on the pipeline route. Retired Supreme Court Justice Frank Iacobucci will lead this effort. The government insists he won't be starting from scratch, though, but will instead build on the first consultation, filling in the gaps the government missed. So how do the feds ensure this time they get it right? Joining me now is the Minister of Natural Resources, Amarjeet Sohi. Hi, Minister Sohi. Nice to see you here.
Nice to be here.
Thanks for coming. Minister, if you could put a timeline on the NEB portion of the consultations, why can't you put a timeline on this portion?
Vashi, before I go into your question, let me stress the importance of how critical it is that Canada's energy sector, the resource development and sustainable development of natural resources remain a source of well-paying middle-class jobs for Canadians. It has been for decades, and it will remain for decades. So in order for that to happen, we need to make sure that we are expanding the capacity of our pipelines to getting those resources to global non-US markets. For us to move forward on the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion in the right way, we need to do two things. One thing we announced, directing the NEB to undertake the review that is necessary to scope in the marine shipping and understand the impact of marine shipping on the marine environment. And the second part, which I announced today, is a meaningful consultation with Indigenous peoples to make sure that we are engaging with them, we are listening to their concerns, and we are finding solutions to the concerns they identify and offer accommodation where accommodation is possible. On the timelines, the last consultation, three-phase consultation on TMX took about 7 months. Court has given us a direction. Court has said that if that meaningful consultation can be taken in a focused and efficient manner, and that's exactly what we are going to do. We're going to get this right, and we're not starting from the scratch either. We have a lot of information that was gathered in the initial consultation. We're going to rely on that information, and we're going to build up on that information by engaging with Indigenous.
So why not say how long this will take in order to give certainty about when construction will start?
Because putting a timeline that could easily be perceived by our stakeholders as a deadline by which we want to conclude those discussions, and that they may perceive us not engaging in good faith.
What's the difference between putting one on the NEB, though, and not on this?
Because that is a different process, because there's a procedural things that NEB can follow, and there's a very limited scope on which we have given direction to the NEB. Meeting constitutional obligations under the Constitution in relations to fulfilling that obligation for Indigenous consultation is much broader than that. And we have 117 Indigenous communities to engage with. We're going to double our resources for that consultation. We're going to rely on external expertise for us to assist on that. But we want to do a good job, and we want to do a meaningful job, which means that we cannot put a timeline on it. But there's a direction from the court, and that direction is that meaningful consultation can be done in an efficient and focused manner.
Don't you handicap the meaningful, quote unquote, meaningful nature of this by saying that what you prefaced your entire comments by, the pipeline will get built, we need to build pipelines, we need to build this pipeline? Are you not handicapping the meaningfulness of that process by saying that? Forget about a timeline, what about that?
No, we are not. Because when you look at the court's decision, court has identified two issues, as I said earlier, and we are committed to resolving those two issues. That is why we say we move forward in the right way, which means looking after the environment, making sure we are engaging Indigenous peoples in a meaningful way, and giving our teams the mandate to negotiate and to offer accommodation, which did not exist under the previous consultation that took place. So we are following clear direction from the court, and we are confident that with these steps we will be able to move forward on this project, but only only in the right way, not by presupposing the outcome of the NEB decision and consultation as well as the consultation with Indigenous people.
So in essence then, just so that I'm clear, there is no end date for the reply of your government to this court decision, aka when construction may proceed. There is no timeline for that.
There is no timeline at this time for the conclusion of the consultation,
And
but
therefore
we are
construction.
confident based on the history of the previous consultation and based on the direction that court has given, that meaningful consultation can take place in an efficient and focused manner, and that's exactly what we're going to do by putting more resources, by relying on external expertise and working really hard. This is very important for our government. The relationship with Indigenous peoples is very important relationship, and we need to do a better job, and that's why I am committed and our government is committed to getting it right.
The court singled out the idea that the people tasked with doing that extra consultation that your government did over those 7 months had no decision-making power and instead were just taking notes. How will you rectify that this time around? You've mentioned more resources. You've mentioned, I know that the former Supreme Court Judge, Justice Yakabuchi, will be in charge, but will you be involved in the process? Will there be someone with decision-making authority in order to make this meaningful?
I have been involved from day one since taking responsibility of this portfolio, engaging with Indigenous peoples before the decision of August 30th and after the decision of the August 30th. But we are also giving mandate to the negotiating teams. We are enhancing, we are empowering them to engage in a meaningful way and also give them
in layman's terms, what does that mean?
That,
are they just taking notes
no,
or what are they doing?
What that means, Vashi, is that they will have the ability to have a two-way dialogue, but they also have the ability to offer accommodations.
So they can say, this is what we will do to accommodate.
Absolutely. We are giving them the mandate to do so where accommodation is reasonably possible to be offered. So they will have that ability to engage and offer accommodations on the concerns that they will be hearing from Indigenous peoples. That's a fundamental change that we are making that did not exist in the previous consultation process.
How do you define reasonable accommodation? What is an example of something your government is willing to do, short of offering a veto, that reasonably accommodates the concerns expressed by these First Nations?
I think as we listen to those concerns, as we engaged with the Indigenous peoples, they will identify what their concerns are. Some concerns we already know based on the previous consultation. And once we hear those, at that time, accommodation will be offered. I don't want to presuppose what accommodation will look like, because it is going to look like different. Another thing that we're doing different, Vashi, is very important to understand, is that as we initiate our consultation, we're going to actually involve Indigenous peoples to seek their input, how we engage with them. That's the fundamental shift that we're bringing to our approach on consultation.
I just want to be clear, though, on the decision-making powers of those involved in this consultation. If, for example, the accommodation is to alter the route of this pipeline, are they able to make that kind of decision?
They will be able to make a decision, empowered to make a number of decisions based on what they hear, but at the same time, I will be getting regular updates. I will be directly
So you would have to sign off on
I will
something
be
like
directly
that.
engaging with Indigenous leaders, building my relationship with them, directly listening to them and listening and hearing their concerns. And this will be a very hands-on approach, whole of the government approach that we will
I
take.
understand that. I just do want to be clear that because in the former process, they were not empowered to make those decisions, and they had, they were just sending notes to the minister, to the ministry. In this case, I just want to be clear. Will they be able to make that kind of decision, or do decisions about routes, about accommodations, have to be signed off on by you?
The negotiating teams, or I would say the consultation leads, are empowered through the new process to offer accommodation where accommodation can reasonably be offered. So
And do you decide what is reasonable?
No, it's a government's decision as a mandate that has given to me, as the mandate that we have sought in order to initiate these conversations, is definitely focused on the deficiency that court has identified. One of the deficiency, as you have mentioned, was that our officials did not have the proper mandate to actually negotiate and offer accommodation.
Okay, I'll leave it there. I'm out of time, but thank you, Minister. Appreciate you coming in.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
So are BC's Indigenous communities confident the consultation will be carried out correctly this time? Joining me now from Merritt, British Columbia, is the chief of the Coldwater Indian Band, Lee Spahan. Hi, Chief Spahan. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
I just spoke with Minister of Natural Resources Amarjeet Sohi, and he was insistent that this version of the consultations with Indigenous groups and people will be more meaningful than the last one. And he primarily pointed to the idea that those who are tasked with conducting the consultations will have decision-making authority. He wasn't too specific about what kind of authority, but that they would have that kind of authority. What is your response to that?
Well, it'll be good to sit down and have a meaningful meeting with the minister, and if he does have that authority, it'll be a government-to-government basis, because before, when we met with other representatives, they had no authority at all. So how can the Canadian government say that that's at a government-to-government basis? So I'm waiting to see. I want to hold the minister accountable to what he's saying, and if he's going to come out to Coldwater and listen to myself, my council, and my membership on our concerns that we have.
And you are, Chief, meeting with him tomorrow, correct?
It's scheduled, but like I said, I'd rather have him come to my community, not only to listen to what the concerns are that we have in regards to our water aquifer, because I want to show him where our water aquifer is and how much that aquifer feeds our community. We depend on that natural resource.
And yeah, can you just sort of remind our viewers what exactly is the opposition from Coldwater Indian Band, and why? I know, of course, it has to do with that aquifer.
Well, the reason we went to court was for the protection of our water aquifer, because the proposed Trans Mountain expansion pipeline was to go right through our aquifer. And listening to all the interviews that Justin Trudeau did, and the NEB hearing, and how they moved the pipeline for the Nestle company, but yet Justin Trudeau wouldn't even come to Coldwater, wouldn't even give me a call or send me a letter. I issued a letter to Justin Trudeau last December. I hand-delivered it to him at the AFN in Ottawa. It took 6 months for a minister to get back to me, Minister Carr. I sent out an open invitation to the Prime Minister to come to Coldwater to listen to what our concerns and our issues are. And I still hold that invitation open for the Prime Minister. And I'd like to have the Minister Sohi come to our community as well, and to meet with myself and my council and the membership.
So, Chief, I know we're dealing in hypotheticals, but say, based on what the minister has said, that there is a consultation that occurs, that someone comes there or a number of people come there and they are authorized to make accommodations based on your concerns and the concerns of the people on the Coldwater Indian Band. And, for example, they are able to alter the route so that it doesn't go directly through the aquifer. Is that what you're looking for? And is that enough to change your perspective on the pipeline?
Well, that'll be the direction that the membership give to council, and council will direct me on what our next steps are. But it's to have the trust and the respect there. See, we don't trust the Canadian government because of the last process and how they didn't listen to us. They didn't seriously take our issues and concerns seriously. And how can you have respect when you don't trust the Canadian government?
Is there something the government can do to win that trust back?
Well, they have to come out to our community. Like I said, I have the open invitation for them to come to our community and meet with us.
Okay, I'll leave it there. Thank you so much, Chief Spahan.
Thanks, Vashi.
Thank